Whenever you hear the word conversion whenever it comes to Phantom Forces, what comes to mind? Maybe something simple like 223 on an M4A1. You get a little bit of less damage, but in favor of a little bit less recoil. And while not inherently bad, it's just kind of something that exists. You can use it if you like it. You don't have to if you don't want to. So whenever you see the words bad conversion, not all too much might come to mind right off the bat. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about just that. The bad, if not downright terrible and useless conversions that exist in Phantom Forces. By the way, these are in no particular order, so before you scream, they're literally in random order. By the way, this might end up being broken up into two parts because I imagine that this is probably going to be a pretty long video otherwise. But today I want to start with the thing that made me want to do this video in the first place, and that is going to be the semi-auto conversion on the BWC9A. Potentially one of the most useless things whenever it comes to pretty much any weapon in the game. Now essentially what semi-auto does is it takes your fully auto weapon and it makes it semi-auto. So you have to left click or use a macro to be able to actually hit your fire rate maximums. So the thing that I fail to understand here is, like, weapons like this, they're good, they're fine, they have great stats. Why would you cap your ability to fire this thing full auto? On one hand, this does have a surface level benefit here. That is, if you equip semi-auto, you get a higher fire rate. But who is clicking that fast? All it's really doing is incentivizing people to use a macro to get a faster fire rate out of it. But like, it's not even like it does really anything else that I can see. I mean, like, this weapon is fantastic as is, so what is the point? What is the genuine point here? I'd love to know. Somebody please explain to me. I'd love to know. Someone please explain. Coming up next on the list, though, is going to be a conversion that a lot of people might not even realize exists, or at least I didn't until fairly recently. I did do a video on that if you're interested, by the way. And then it's going to be the 5.56 on the K7. So we technically already have this weapon existing in the game, that being the K1A. The only difference between that and this is that that is a good weapon and this is a bad weapon. So unlike a lot of other kind of conversions that exist in this game, this doesn't change the name of the weapon, it's still just K7. But really, it just kind of has worse stats than the K7 does. The base K7 is actually pretty decent. It's got some okay damage and stuff, nothing crazy when it comes to the multipliers, but the main selling point rather is the 1100 fire rate. But whenever you equip 5.56, sure, you get a tiny little increase in damage, but you still get basically no multipliers, and your fire rate is cut down to just 850. And we don't even get 3-shot up close, and there's no 1.1 torso multi to change that. So arguably, we get a worse experience with this weapon. The next one I feel might make a handful of people mad, but I really don't see enough people using it, so I hope not. And then it's going to be 357 SIG on the Vector. There are a lot of conversions for the Vector, and none of them are particularly bad, and this one is, well, it just kind of isn't that bad. But I'm very confused at where this is, like, applicable compared to some of the other ammo types. On the surface, like, yeah, I'll get a kill or two. Great, great. Maybe three. Let's go. 4 is even cooler. I'll take a quad kill. And a multi as well. Sure, why not? I'm actually doing pretty okay with this conversion. But again, this is not necessarily about a bad conversion, it's just a what's the point kind of conversion. So if we look at the base weapon, it's got pretty good damage up close, a high fire rate, you know, you got some little multipliers going on here. We got 9x19, and what that does gives you a little bit less damage, but you get quite a bit more magazine capacity, sure. You got 22, which has super low damage, and a pretty small magazine, but with insane multipliers, giving you some pretty crazy fast kills, and also some insanely low recoil to mix with that. But 357 SIG is just kind of a mix of just like, what do you do with this? So first, the damage is not all too much different from the base weapon damage. You get recoil that is maybe not, well, no, it's kind of bad, and only 16 rounds. So it's like, who is this appealing to? It's not like you can't use it, it's just, I don't understand the point. Another one I don't really get the point of is going to be 380 ACP on the Rama. The default Rama is kind of a weird weapon. It has an 80 round drum in this like weird attempt at making a, was it like a fully auto Makarov or something? My teammate just shot me. Normally that's my job. And stats really aren't amazing for this. I mean, like, you know, damage isn't anything to go crazy over whenever it comes to SMGs, but what it lacks in damage and stats, otherwise it makes up for in giant magazine capacity. Though 380 ACP is just weird, it lowers your damage overall. You only get 20 rounds in a single magazine now, and recoil feels, if anything, worse than the 80 round magazine. I don't know if that's just me. Where did that come from? Bro, what are you doing? Bro, so it's much like the 357 SIG. You can use it, sure, but like, who is this appealing to? Who is the target market for something that does 16 damage at range and has pretty poor recoil, because it most certainly is not me. I'm going to imagine that our next one of 9mm on the AKU-12 might be a little bit less controversial. It might seem pretty decent on the surface. I mean, you've got a nice 30-round magazine of 9mm. You got a 1000 fire rate. That's not too bad, right? For a little carbine with 9mm ammo, you know, whatever. And you got a little bit of 3-shot potential here. Got some nice 36 damage out to 50 studs. However, the issue comes with the fact that this is not only a 3-round burst, right? But a very terrible 3-round burst at that. So if you've never used this weapon before, you might not realize that recoil is, not great. You could think, well, let me just pull down to compensate. But now your reticle is down here. So what you end up having to do is pull down and then pull up after every single burst, just to keep it kind of in a similar spot. This is mostly just a factor of old Phantom Forces recoil being old Phantom Forces recoil, though I will say it is getting a big revamp soon, so this is mostly just something that we'll have to deal with temporarily, and I don't really see the point of this over some other, like, full auto carbines that have just as much, if not more damage, and also better recoil. Something that I doubt many of you guys use is going to be exotic slugs on the Jerry. This one is a particularly weird one, because technically you can shred with this, but only at point blank. Let me show you why. So exotic slugs is a weird shotgun conversion for the Jerry, and essentially what it allows you to do is you get 2 pellets per shot. Notice anything about those pellets? They are so far separated from each other. Even from a range like from here to this wall, look at that. They're so separated. And each time you fire, it's always going to be random. It's always going to be random. So you can either have the pellets closer or farther apart. You're literally better off like aiming to the side of somebody to try and hit them than you are aiming directly head on. And again, it's just one of those things that, like, who is this useful for? In what situation is this applicable? Maybe point blank maps like Metro, sure, maybe a little bit of Bazaar here and there. But at really any range at all, this is going to be a pretty useless conversion. Though it is a shotgun conversion, that's not entirely the point. Otherwise, damage numbers are fairly high. And I think it's an interesting, unique thing. It's just not that applicable to like 80% of situations that you find yourself in this game. I typically like to say that there's a use for everything in this game. No, not for pennies. Usually with conversions that do obscenely low damage, as low as 2 damage, usually something's a little bit like different about it. Maybe it has a crazy high headshot multi. A good example, something like the Boxy Buster. Super low damage, but a 50 times headshot multi. No, pennies doesn't get that. Pennies gets 2.6 damage. 1.5 headshot multi, which is a little bit above average, but you're still gonna have to be doing a lot of headshots to get any kills. The only difference really with this is that you get 50 rounds. So like, sure, you get 10 total bursts because it is a 5-round burst by default without any of the other modifications to it. But where is this applicable? Who is this useful for? We could also take it up a notch too if we go to the secondary version of the E-gun called the coil gun, because with this weapon, you also get the pennies conversion, doing as low as 1.67 damage, though this time we do have a 1.1 torso multi. This is equally as useless and has even less reason to be used. That's the wrong weapon. This is the weapon I was referring to, but both are equally as useless because both fire pennies. Well, that pretty much is going to sum up part 1, I think. I still have quite a few more conversions that I've recorded videos for, or recorded another video for, I should say, which hopefully I'll be able to get out tomorrow. So subscribe with notifications on if you have not done so already so that you don't miss that video. You can also join the Discord server link below where I always ping for videos and streams and stuff. So definitely don't forget to do that if you get the chance, which you're already here, so go ahead. You could also consider watching the Phantom Forces playlist that'll be up on screen right now alongside all of the lovely channel members. You guys are fantastic. If you want to become one, you can do so too with the link below. Love you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.